Okay, good evening. Today is tax day, Monday, April 15th, 2019. This is week 7. Welcome to week 7. So this is almost over. Our theme for the week is transformational leadership. On the call, we have Kel and Lola. So let me get to the first difference that you may have seen earlier today. Typically, I grade papers on Wednesday and Thursday. Because of the number of papers I have to grade, I find it easier to do it in over 2 days. But because I have to travel this week, I'm leaving the country for a few days, I had to get it done before I left the country because I don't know what will or will not work in the Caribbean, which is where I'm going. So all week 6 submissions have been graded. So take a look out there. If you haven't done so already, you can see your grades. So since this is week 7, this is your last busy week by design. When writing the course, I decided to keep you busy during weeks 2 through 7 with what I'm going to call a rest period during week 8. Very, very little to do. And that's by design, so that if you have to go to your next course without a break, you did get somewhat of a break during this session. And also it gives you an opportunity to take care of anything that may need to be resubmitted or submitted late due to life circumstances. And over this 6-week period we've had so far, we've had quite a bit of people dealing with life. And in this case, we've had a few people, relatives in this case, pass along. We've had lots of business travel. We've had sick families. So it's been interesting. But all of you have done well in terms of keeping up. So this is week 7. This is your last major writing assignment. And this will be, and this is the part where some of you don't listen or read the instructions. The goal for week 7 is to take the paper that you started in week 3, then you added the material from week 5 to the paper from week 3. And so this week you would actually add the new part, or part 3, if you will, to the 2 previous parts. So I probably had about a 50-50 mix in week 5, where some of you did add, some of you just submitted another clean paper. I graded both. I'll work with the powers that be at the school after the course is over and determine if the instructions were clear. And this is where you can answer. Were the instructions clear, or did you... I'm trying to understand how some of you did it right and some of you didn't do it right.
Well, I've been a part of the Zoom meetings. Oh, sorry. I've been a part of the Zoom meetings every time. So when you actively participate in the Zoom meetings, I'd say they're very clear.
Okay. So maybe the instructions aren't very clear, but I'll tell you that the instructions are done by the same person for all of our classes. The professors provide the content. We have a young lady who actually goes through and put the courses together for us. And she writes these instructions from the perspective of a person who doesn't know the material. And so we'll go back and look at those instructions again, and we'll try to clarify if needed.
Okay.
So during this session, which is by design my shortest session because there are typically the fewest number of people here, I only plan to speak on one item, and that's transformational leadership. I'll lecture for just a few minutes, and we can attempt to have a healthy debate with 2 people and an instructor. And if it works out, it works out. If not, then it's just a very, very short class for both of you. So a little housekeeping notes here. Since we're almost done, please take a look at your grades and engage and make sure that all of your grades are there. If there is a grade that you want to contest, please let me know. Send me an email, and I'll make some suggestions to you. I may even let you resubmit it. So right now is the time to submit everything. And in some cases, there have been a few of you who may not have done something in the earlier weeks. You can still submit and get late credit or some credit versus no credit at all. Now, during the last 2 weeks, it is very, very important that we submit everything on time because I have a deadline after week 8 to get the grades in. And obviously, you all want to see your final grade as quickly as possible. So the sooner you get it in, the sooner I get it done. So let's go back to transformational leadership. This is something, if I were in a classroom, there would be, I hope, a healthy debate going on about this. So I was talking to my Army roommate today, and we were talking about politics, as we often do. And as you all become older, you start to see the world a little differently. And I find that we talk about politics probably 50% of the time, after talking about families and social economic issues. And we made it on the topic of leadership, as we often do. So I'm going to read the definition that I found today of transformational leadership. And I'm reading this definition I found today because it's not quite the same as the definition that I've seen in other places. And I thought it would be appropriate given the content of the conversation I had today with my friends. So according to James McGregor Burns, transformational leadership is defined as a leadership approach that causes change in individuals and social systems. Let me move that over so you can see it. In its ideal form, it creates valuable and positive change in the followers, with the end goal of developing leaders into followers. I said that backwards, developing followers into leaders. Enacted in its authentic form, transformational leadership enhances the motivation, morale, and performance of followers through a variety of mechanisms. These include connecting the follower's sense of identity and self to the mission and the collective identity of the organization. Being a role model for followers that inspire them. Challenging leaders to take greater ownership for their work and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of those followers so that the leader can align followers with tasks that optimize their performance. So I highlighted a few key words here, or key sentences in this case. Also, according to Burns, transforming leadership is a process which leaders and followers help each other advance to a higher level of morale and motivation. And obviously, I'm willing to wager everyone listening right now knows who I'm about to talk about or ask you guys about. Our current president. The conversation I had with my friend today was whether or not our 45th president is a transformational leader. Kel, Lola, what are your thoughts?
I struggle to see him as a transformational leader. I think there's aspects to what he does that allows for it, but I feel like a transformational leader would influence everybody positively.
Is that possible?
In his scope, it's probably not the amount of people that are considered. I would be curious to see really what he was like, not with a camera in his face, behind closed doors, because the camera provides a filter that I've got no control over. So I think much of the information that we're provided is filtered. Sometimes, or more often than not, it's very biased. So for me, it's difficult to say. I'm not a huge fan, but I'm also not a huge fan of the media and the method through which they provide information. So,
understood. Okay.
I don't know if I'm.
And by the way, there is no right or wrong answer here. It's just a matter of opinions. And if I was physically in the classroom with you all right now, I'm sure there'd be lots of people raising their hands right now to jump in on this.
Yeah.
Lola, what are your thoughts about our 45th president? Is he transformational? While Lola gets her iPad off of mute, I'll say this. I'll touch on something that you touched on, Kel. When I was a young man, I remember watching evening news with my parents, and news was reported without bias. They simply gave us the facts, nothing more. But back in those days, we didn't have CNN, we didn't have MSNBC or Fox News sharing their opinions. And so I found it much more refreshing to just get the facts. Lola, you with me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
What do you think?
Oh boy. Well, I think if we were judging him based on the facts and not fake news, given his credentials, given his ability to manage his staff or lack thereof, his portrayal of himself and his sense of identity, as well as his ability to have a relational transaction, unlike a transactional approach, which is one of the definitions of a transformational leader. I think he personally thinks that he's in charge, he knows it all, he's well equipped to make decisions, and does not really rely on his staff to make decisions or even trust their expertise. I don't think he has a great sense of identity. I think he's just morphed himself into who people think he should be or whatever. I think that he's not self-reflective or self-aware, which is a huge component of leadership. I think for him, he thinks everyone is against him and he has an agenda or something to prove. So therefore, listening to people, listening to the experts, listening to his team, rallying around his team, supporting them, is certainly not something he does. So based on those assessments, I don't think he's a transformational leader.
So what do you think perhaps a Trump follower would believe? And that's to either of you.
Well, I think a Trump supporter would think because he is, he has his personality is very dominant and very aggressive and very bold and demonstrative. And I think a lot of people have this ideology that a leader is supposed to be strong and more of a dictator. And so I think he has a lot of those qualities. So they think of him as a leader because he showcases that in his personality and his work. And so, but people who are perhaps more informed understand that leadership does not necessarily mean you being the loudest person in the room or the strongest person per se. You can be a quiet leader. So that's just my thought.
This is true. Okay. Kel, any thoughts?
So I'm referencing Daniel Coleman, working with emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And there's something that kind of stands out to me in the piece about transformational leader. Being a transformational leader, and I'm reading verbatim right now, so bear with me. Doing this requires a leader to articulate a compelling vision of new organizational goals. Even though the goals may be somewhat utopian, committing to them can be emotionally satisfying in itself. Arousing people's emotions in this way and harnessing them in the pursuit of lofty or noble goals gives a leader a powerful force for change. Indeed, studies show that this kind of leadership brings great efforts and better performance from the subordinates, making their work more effective. And this, I don't believe that our current president has managed to do.
What if I would argue, or what if I argued that "Make America Great Again"? His slogan is a lofty goal. Whether we agree with it or disagree, I'm trying to play devil's advocate.
I would agree, and I think that was probably in part why he was elected, because it hit home with so many people. But that the great is open to interpretation. What does that involve?
Absolutely.
Right?
And he tapped into emotions, did he not?
Absolutely, and he continues to, because I feel like he's got a really good grasp on tuning into the emotions of the people, whether or not they're positive or negative. He can stir the pot.
My brother-in-law used to sell fire devices, and I watched him once use fear to sell. And as a young man, I was probably in my 20s back in those days, I hit the realization that if you can get hold of someone's fear, you probably have your hands on something. And it seems to me as if, and please, just because I'm the one talking now doesn't mean I'm right. It seems to me as if he's tapped into fear of some sort.
I would agree. As a coach, I've spent a lot of time playing with ways to influence and get my kids to swim faster. I've always avoided fear because I've been subject to the fear itself. And it's a great initial motivator, but what it does is it creates a scenario, at least in swimming, where the child burns out eventually. They can't handle it. It's like running a dog to death or running a horse to death. They'll go until they die because they're afraid, but it doesn't improve them over the long haul. Giving them a sense of control and inspiring them and guiding them brings them much further, much longer.
Agreed.
Through coaching. I mean, yeah, I don't know exactly how that relates to the political environment because I've never dabbled in it, but I do know that scientific studies have shown that fear is not as good a motivator as positive reinforcement is.
That's absolutely correct. As a former coach, I saw this pretty much my entire kid's life. If you watch baseball, Little League baseball, kids tend to burn out around 15, somewhere between 13 and 15 years old. And the coaches who are most successful early on in the years are the coaches who instill a sense of fear into the kids. The coaches who are successful at the high school level are not the coaches who yell and scream. At least that's been my experiences. But you made a good point there earlier as well. This concept of transformational leadership began actually through the study of politicians. It's now been rolled out, but there are many, many, many politicians, many, many, many leaders who actually lead through fear.
Mm-hmm.
I've had an opportunity to watch a few sales meetings over the years, and I thought to myself, "Wow! I mean, I'm not a salesperson, but and that fiery speech that person gave probably wouldn't motivate me, but clearly it motivated almost everybody else in the room. I thought it was fear, and I thought that you probably couldn't get me to respond very well by telling me that you're going to fire me if I don't meet my sales objective. Why don't we try a different way?" It's kind of sort of like the old adage that I heard as a kid: you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar.
Right. So, it's also the utilization of fear to progress your agenda is, if I remember correctly from Gene Littman Blumen, it's a trait of a toxic leader.
Absolutely. So given everything that we just stated, we're now 2 years into 45's administration. If everything that we stated is true, and if he's actually using fear to motivate people, one would think that at some time, given what you just stated about the horse and what I said about the kids, at some point it runs out.
Yep.
Okay. The next part of the debate my friend and I had was whether or not he would be reelected.
I think
and this is. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say,
please.
It largely depends on his competition. I mean, if he is running against Hillary, I wouldn't doubt that occurs again.
Well, I don't think Hillary's gonna put her head in.
No.
So I have no indications thus far that she will.
No.
So.
Lola?
But the question is, what do you think, Lola?
Well, I actually think he has a really good chance of possibly getting re-elected. Because even though he has really negative, his reputation is negative. People don't like him, and you have those who love him and those who hate him. I don't think anyone is kind of in between. I think that unlike the persona and just all of that stuff, all the fluff, the fact that the unemployment rate is low, all of the facts of financial success, quote unquote, which I don't believe he can take credit for that because all of that happened over time with the previous administration. But again, he takes credit for everything. So I think that if people are basing it off of the current economy right now and the fact that they're seeing more money in their paychecks or they're getting some type of tax cuts or whatever, or their medical bills are lower, or it's affecting them in a positive way, then people don't necessarily want to take the risk of having another leader and have things change. I think, generally speaking, if it's affecting them in a positive way, whether they like him or not, they're probably going to keep him in.
In other words, people will vote their pockets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I think there's some truth to that. So part of the argument today between my friend and I was that Trump is transformational and that he has literally transformed the Republican Party. So based on the definition that we have in front of us, which you both should be able to see on your screen, does that qualify as transformation?
Certainly. I think, too, that he's kind of polarized the Republican Party. There are Republicans who don't agree with what he's been doing because to them, he's more moderate than they'd like. But to the other extent, I think he's also transformed the Democratic Party by them needing to overcompensate as well. I almost feel like the political environment's becoming a yo-yo that's sliding further right and further left, and the pull has been on this end because Trump is in the hot seat right now. They wanted to go further right, and to some extent, he's actually brought it more to the middle. Not in all extents, but I agree with Lola. The amount of positive things that have occurred during his tenure are definitely a result of previous administrations. I also think that some of the things he's been accused of, like the border crisis and in the things that were happening with the Dreamers, that wasn't established during a Republican term. That was established, I think, in Bill Clinton's era, maybe even before that. And so that comes back to the media as well.
Okay, then let's go a step further. 4 elements of transformational leadership. Individualized consideration, which is the degree to which a leader attends to each follower's needs, acts as a mentor or coach to the follower, and listens to the follower's concerns and needs. Intellectual stimulation, the degree to which the leader challenges assumptions, takes risks, and solicits followers' ideas. Inspirational motivation, the degree to which the leader articulates a vision that is appealing and inspiring the followers. And number 4, idealized influence, provides a role model for high ethical behavior, instills pride, gains respect and trust. Do you still have the same opinion? Is he a transformational leader?
Yeah, no.
I think it's
Still say no. Okay.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry. I don't think he is. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest issue for Trump is that he wants to be in control. He's always been in control as a business leader, as the one calling the shots, making the monies, making the deals, and having to go into an environment where you have to work with other people who are experts in their field, who've been doing this for years. They've studied this, they've researched this, they know what the issues are, what the challenges are. They have great ideas. He doesn't listen to them. He thinks he wants to be transformational by creating something innovative. Well, your innovation is not practical if it's affecting people's lives and children and families. It's not about white or black or Asian or whatever. It's about how can we as a country create a system that works for everybody, not just for the rich, not for the white people, not for black people, but just everybody. And I don't think he understands that concept. He really thinks the United States of America is a transactional deal, that he's trying to make the deal with by all costs, no ifs, no buts, I got to make the deal. And that if that means going over somebody's head, if that means breaking the rules, if that means lying, he'll do anything to close the deal.
The Machiavellian, the ends justify the means, hide the with utilitarianism. Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Okay, well, then let's take a different approach. Who would you consider to be a transformational leader?
You know, I may be biased too, and I won't name anybody on this one, but I will when the discussion continues. But I've always felt the transformational leader transforms to the positive, not to the negative. And I understand that's open to interpretation.
Absolutely.
But I think it also is very much intertwined with ethics and ethical standards. And when those are even questioned, I feel like that disqualifies a lot of people.
Okay.
I don't believe the ends justify the means. And I don't have the solution for everything, but I do feel like there's a way to do things ethically and correctly to the positive. And I think that it's that skipping that step to find a positive solution, but a negative method of executing it is, it happens more often than it should.
Fair enough. Okay, I'd like to thank both of you for your conversation. Thanks for your opinions. I think they're very sound. Sounds like both of you have given this a little thought at some point in time, so it's pretty nice to hear this. And I'll tell you that one of the greatest parts of leading a class like this is I get to read all your papers and I get to see 15 different thought processes. And I think that's absolutely awesome because all of you have different lived experiences. You look at things differently and you present your ideas differently. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm the lucky one who gets to read your papers. So cool. That's about all we have scheduled for tonight. It's 9:02. I can give you 30 minutes back, or we can talk about anything that you like.
Lola?
No, I'm good. You got me worked up now, though.
That's the intent. I wish I could teach more often in the classroom, and that's the way. This is actually the way I start every session.
You know,
it literally debate for about 30 minutes.
You know, it does make me nervous. If Trump does take office, he's got nothing to lose the second term.
Absolutely. And that was another part of our conversation today. And by the way, I do predict he will win re-election.
Yeah. It's not going to be a landslide. It's going to be tight the whole way, for sure.
Absolutely. And I think he's done it. I'll tell you, one of the benefits is that I believe more people will show up and vote this time. If nothing else, I think he's generated a sincere interest in politics.
Oh, certainly.
So I try my best to find the positive in everything. and that's what I see. And I look forward to the next election. Actually, I look forward to the debates. And if you watch news today, a Republican will run against him. I believe it's the ex-governor of Massachusetts, I believe. Is it either Massachusetts or Maine? So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
So if there are no questions, I'll give you your time back. Please take a look at your papers. And I'm available if you have any questions. Now, I'm leaving the country Wednesday morning. I don't think my cell phone is going to work in the Caribbean, but I will check email at least once a day, every day while I'm away. And I will return on Sunday.
Whereabouts in the Caribbean are you going?
Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So I'm told that my laptop will, I'm told Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi. I've never been to DR. I have no clue what to expect when I get there. But in all the other countries I've ever been to, I've been able to work. I'm directly from my laptop. So I think we should be fine.
Yeah, I think the Dominican Republic's pretty good. If you went on the other side, I think you may struggle in Haiti a little bit, but
understood.
Yeah.
Well, I thank both of you. I've enjoyed reading both of your papers. I think, if my memory serves me, one is Little Paddles and the other is LCS. Did I get that right?
Yep, Little Paddles for me.
And,
yep.
And I know yours is a not-for-profit organization. Okay, I didn't know if I had the name right. It's amazing. After a few weeks of reading your papers, it's amazing how much you get to know about the people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's impressive. You remember the names.
Yeah.
When you read that many papers, it's hard to get those papers out of my mind sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thank both of you. So, and I thank the rest of the class. You all have a great evening, and I'll see you all at graduation.
Sounds good. I look forward to it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.